Hello, hello everyone. I'm Gunashree, studying in Shri Venkateshwara College of Engineering. Today, I'll be discussing about the topic that is the structure and function of animal cell. So, before getting into the topic, let me say a few things about the animal cell. So, these are the fundamental building blocks of all the multicellular organisms. They'll possess a variety of organelles that will work together to perform essential life functions like the metabolism, growth, and reproduction. An animal cell is basically a eukaryotic cell that will lack a cell wall and it is enclosed by the plasma membrane. The cell organelles are enclosed by the plasma membrane, including the cell nucleus. Animals are a large group of diverse living organisms that will make up three-quarters of all the species on Earth, with their ability to move, respond to stimuli, respond to environmental changes, adapt to different modes of feeding, defense mechanisms, and reproduction. All these mechanisms are enhanced by their constituent elements in the body. However, animals cannot manufacture their own food, so they depend on plants directly or indirectly. So, all the living things are basically made up of cells that will make up their body structure. Some of these living things are single celled, and other organisms are made up of more than one cell. Mostly, cells are covered by a protective membrane, which is known as the cell wall, which will give cells their shape and rigidity. Moving on to the structure of animal cell. So here is the structure that is present. Cytoplasm is present, vacuoles are there, centrosomes are there, microtubules are there, Golgi apparatus, nucleus, nucleolus, and many other cell organelles or structures that will be present. So moving on to what are basically the animal cell organelles. So the animal cell is made up of several structural organelles enclosed in the plasma membrane, which will enable it to function properly, eliciting mechanisms that benefit the host. The working together of all the cell will give the animal its ability to move, reproduce, respond to stimuli, to digest and absorb the food. Moving on to the first cell organelle, basically that is the cytoplasm. So it is a gel-like material that contains all the cell organelles enclosed within the cell. The different cell organelles that will include are mitochondria, ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes, intermediate filaments, microfilament microtubules, vesicles, and many more. Moving on to the first structure, that is of first cell organelle, that is a plasma membrane. So this is a semi-permeable membrane. It will contain a percentage of lipids, making a semi-permeable barrier between the cell and its physical environment. So it has some protein components. It is very consistent around the cell, and all the living cells will possess a plasma membrane. Moving on to the functions of plasma membrane. So basically, or the first function is to enclose and protect the cell content. The second one is to regulate the molecules that pass in and out of the cell through the plasma membrane. Third function is the proteins which are present are actively involved in transporting materials across the membrane. Moving on to the second cell organelle, that is a nucleus. So this is a spherical structured organelle found in majorly at the center of the cell, surrounded by a double-layered nuclear membrane separating it from the cytoplasm. It is held together to the cytoplasm with the help of filaments and microtubules. Moving on to the structure of nucleus, the double-layered membrane is a continuous channel of membranes from the endoplasmic reticulum network. The membrane has pores which allow the entry of large molecules. Nucleoli is present, that are the small bodies found in the nucleus. The nucleus and its components organelles are suspended in the nucleoplasm. So this is basically the home of chromosomal DNA and the genetic material. Moving on to the function of nucleus, the primary role of the nucleus is basically to control and regulate cell activities of growth and maintain the cell metabolic activities. It will also carry the genes that will have hereditary information of the cell. The chromosomal DNA and genetic material, which are made up of genetic code, ultimately make up the proteins, amino acid sequences, which will be further used by the cell. So the nucleus will act as the information center for the cell. Moving on to the second organelle, mitochondria. So these are the membrane-bound organelles located in the cytoplasm of all eukaryotic cells. The number of mitochondria found in each cell varies widely depending on the function of the cell it performs. Erythrocytes are one of the examples. So they do not have mitochondria, while the liver and muscle cells have thousands of mitochondria present in them. Structure of mitochondria. So these are rod-shaped, oval-shaped, or spherically shaped based on the functions or based on the type where they're present. So having a size of 0.5 to 10 micrometer. So they have two special membranes, that is the outer membrane and inner membrane. They also have a mitochondrial gel matrix in the central mass. So these membranes further bend down into folds that are known as cristae. Moving on to the functions of mitochondria. So the primary function is to generate energy for all the cell. So they are the power generators producing energy in the form of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, by converting nutrients and oxygens into energy, enabling the cell to perform its functions. So these also store calcium, which will assist in cell signaling activity, generating the cellular and mechanical heat required for the growth and death of cellular organisms. The outer membrane is permeable, so it will allow the small molecules and the special channel to transport large molecules. The inner mitochondrial membrane is less permeable, that will it will allow only selective structures to enter, or selective molecules to enter into the cell. Moving on to the next cell organelle, that is the ribosome. So these are small organelles majorly that are made up of 60% of RNA cytoplasmic granules and 40% of proteins. All living cells will contain ribosomes, which may be freely circulating in the cytoplasm, and some are bound to the endoplasmic reticulum. So it will act as a site for protein synthesis. Moving on to the structure of ribosome. So these are made up of ribosomal proteins and ribosomal RNA, that is popularly known as rRNA. So in the eukaryotic cell, ribosomes constitute half ribosomal RNA and half ribosomal proteins. So each ribosome is made up of two subunits, that is a larger subunit and smaller subunit with their own distinct shape. Basically, these subunits are designated as 40S and 60S in the animal cell based upon the structure. Functions of ribosome. So these will occur as free particles that will be attached to the endoplasmic reticulum or an endoplasmic reticular membrane occurring in large numbers. A single replicated cell will be having about 10 million ribosomes. The ribosomal subunits are the site for genetic coding into proteins. On the ribosomes, the mRNA will help to determine the code for transfer RNA, that is a tRNA, which will determine the protein amino acid sequences. Moving on to endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum is a large dynamic structure that will serve many roles in a cell, including calcium storage, protein synthesis, and lipid metabolism. So several proteins that will contribute to the overall architecture and dynamics, but the many but the ER like endoplasmic reticulum have been identified. But there are some mechanisms going on, like they change in shape in response to the cellular activities that will be taking place in them. So structure of endoplasmic reticulum. So it is continuously folded membranous organelle found in the cytoplasm, made up of thin network of flattened interconnected compartments that connect from the cytoplasm to the cell nucleus. Within its membrane, there are some membranous spaces present that are called cristae spaces, and the membrane foldings are called as cristae. There are two types of endoplasmic reticulums, basically based on their structure and function. They're called as rough ER and smooth ER. Moving on to the functions of endoplasmic reticulum. So manufacturing, processing, and transporting proteins for the cell utilization. To and fro from the cell is the major function of the endoplasmic reticulum. So this is because they are directly connected to the nuclear membrane, providing a passage between the nucleus and the cytoplasm. The ER has more than half of the membrane cell contained, hence it is a large surface area where chemical reactions take place. They also will contain the enzymes for almost all the cell lipid synthesis, hence they are site for lipid synthesis. Moving on to the conclusion, these were all some of the cell organelles that I discussed that will be present in the animal cell. Not only these cell organelles, there are more than these. So conclusion, animal cells are the highly complex with many specialized organelles working together to perform to perform different functions in the human body or the animal body. So this understanding the structure and function of each and every cell organelle is crucial for biology, medicine, and also the new trend that is a biotechnology field. So different cell types will have variations in the organelles and structures that will support further specialized function. Thank you for watching.